All right, so this is the third interview. Um, the video quality is going to be a little mediocre because I'm doing this over Discord at home, uh, partially due to the coronavirus. You know what? You heard it all over the news. But anyway, my guest today is a good friend of mine. He goes by the name of Emperor Lemon. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Emperor Lemon. I have around 530,000 subscribers on YouTube. I started off making YouTube poops, and now I have transitioned to more documentary research type videos.
So you're a YouTuber.
Yes.
Is that your main profession?
Uh, yeah, I graduated college last year at the end of 2019. So now I am a full time YouTuber. At first, I didn't think that it would be feasible. But then as I was in college, I started trying really hard to see just if it was possible. And now I think I'm earning enough through just various revenue streams that I can sustain being a YouTuber full time.
Well, that's great. I think most of us who start up a YouTube channel want to achieve that dream. So I'm glad you've actually gotten to that point, and you're making a living off of it. That's amazing. So how long exactly have you been making YouTube videos?
Well, it's interesting the timing of this interview because we're recording this on March 13th, 2020. And yesterday, March 12th, 2020, was actually the 10-year anniversary of me opening up my current YouTube channel. I had a different channel before that I opened in 2009, but as for the current channel, I opened it in 2010. Um, I really didn't become active on it until around 2011, and in terms of making the videos similar to the ones I'm making now, rather than just YouTube poops and more meme type content, in terms of the videos I've been making now, I really have only been doing this style of video for around 3 years.
So when exactly did you stop making YouTube poops again?
Well, my last YouTube poop that I ever uploaded is actually interesting because it was in a tennis with you, where I don't know. Should I explain what a tennis is?
Yeah,
Or
sure. You can explain it to the people at home.
all right, so in the YouTube poop community, there's this style of video called tennising, where basically two people or more agree to do a tennis, and then one person uploads a video, then the second person downloads that video and makes edits and remixes to that, and then the first person downloads the second video, and it goes on and so forth. And it's just like a big collaborative project where kind of the two creators just add on to the product with each upload. And so my last YouTube poop was at the end of 2017, and it was actually based on a tennis that you and I were doing. But in 2017, I really only uploaded, I think, like four YouTube poops. And the last, like, really kind of big one that was like kind of a big project was Enough is Enough at the end of, or at the beginning of 2017 in January. I think I consider that my last like real YouTube poop that wasn't part of a tennis or anything like that. So after that, I sort of pretty much just I had like some ideas, but it was never enough for me to be passionate about fulfilling the project. So it wasn't really planned to be my last video or my last YouTube poop, but it just ended up being that way because I really was more interested and passionate in making videos like the current content on my channel.
Right. I mean, I think most people out there know that I've pretty much been on hiatus from YouTube poop myself. I've been trying to focus on, you know, deciding what exactly I want to do in life. I've been thinking about doing video editing, and recently I've been really, getting into animation. So I really want to try to focus more on that. And I'm kind of just using like my channel as just like my platform just to upload stuff like that. But maybe I'll do another YouTube poop in the future. I'm not sure yet. But what about you? I think you did a whole video about like whether or not you would poop again, or discussing your relationship to the YouTube poop community. But at this point in time, do you see yourself maybe just doing a one-off for fun?
I definitely would not rule it out. The problem is that nowadays I'm already putting so much time into the current content, and the way YouTube poops are with just the style they are, it's like there's a very low chance that you can get monetized from a YouTube poop, mostly because of copyright issues. Um, so the problem now that I'm doing YouTube full time is that if I spend a lot of effort and time making a YouTube poop, then it feels like I'm diverting resources away from the content I sort of need to make money. Um, Maybe one day eventually I'll just pick it up again as a hobby for fun. But
Like maybe
I don't
throw
know.
them on throw them on your Emperor Lime account or something like that. Just as throwaway videos.
Yeah, I actually do like kind of throwaway videos for that every now and then, maybe like once or twice or three times a year. But in terms of like a big legitimate project where I'm actually like putting a lot of effort into it, it's going to be hard to say when exactly that's going to happen. Um, but I definitely wouldn't rule it out. There are, like I said, I had like a few other ideas that I never really got to fulfill when I just stopped making videos. But the big question is if my willingness to do that will be enough to overcome um, my willingness to just work on other projects that I'm passionate about now.
Where does the name Emperor Lemon come from?
Yeah, this is a question I get a lot. Um, so Lemon is based on my last name, Lemos, Lemos, but I just swapped out the S for Lemon, kind of similar to how Walrus Guy, who is an old YouTube pooper that I grew up watching in like the late 2000s. His last name is Wallstrom, and he used that to become Walrus Guy. So I just derived Lemon from Lemos, and Emperor is just because I got Chinese in my blood, and in China they have emperors, and I always considered the name Emperor cooler than the name of like the title of a king or any other Regius title. I guess that's what you called it. And also, I was a big Star Wars fan at the time, and I always thought the Emperor from Star Wars was cool. So it was like partially that and partially the other stuff. So that's where you get the term.
Here's something I've been wondering for a while. Do you have a favorite movie/TV show?
I don't really watch TV that often. Mostly, I do have a favorite genre, and it's like a kind of adult animation comedy stuff like The Simpsons, South Park. Um, I'd say if I had to pick a favorite show of all time, it would probably be Futurama, just because I thought it's just very consistently good and well written. It's hard to pick a bad episode of Futurama, and I really admire how they managed to keep the series so strong. And I do think it ended at the right time rather than dragging on forever like The Simpsons. So I'd probably say that Futurama is my favorite TV series.
Futurama is definitely one of my favorites too. It took me a while to really appreciate it, but it's definitely a more well-written show than people give it credit for. But I would definitely say, just to throw this out there, I think most people know my favorite show is still Ed, Edd n Eddy. But recently, after I've been getting into watching Netflix series. I actually just finished Castlevania, which is a cool series. Anyone who wants to check that out or likes the Castlevania games, definitely do. But yeah, Ed, Edd n Eddy's my favorite show. I'm also a huge fan of SpongeBob, Invader Zim, Avatar: The Last Airbender. BoJack Horseman is one of my favorite shows, and the early Simpsons, and just other stuff like Rocko's Modern Life, Gravity Falls, the general stuff. But do you have a favorite movie?
That's hard to say. I do like. There's like a bunch of movies that I consider like in my top 10, but it's hard to pick any one above the other. If I could throw one out there, it would probably be The Incredibles. Partly because it was the YouTube poop of The Incredibles that kind of made my channel as big as it is today, and sort of gave me my start to like a wider audience on YouTube. So it's a bit of a selfish reason there, but I also think the film is probably Pixar's best work, and it kind of represented the absolute peak of Pixar and 3D animation and sort of the new era of animated films. And also, I really enjoy the discussing the themes of the movie because it's one of the most complex movies thematically that Pixar has ever attempted.
What did you think of The Incredibles 2?
I thought The Incredibles 2 was just kind of generic, like a generic superhero movie, and it was kind of, I guess it wasn't disappointing. Like on its own, it's fine, but probably something I wouldn't rewatch, just like any other Marvel movie. But the first Incredibles, the reason it was so good was because it wasn't really about the superheroes. It was more like about it was about like our relationship with exceptional people and how society treats like exceptional people. But the the regular movie, it was nowhere near as complex, I guess. It was just kind of a regular old superhero adventure. It didn't really have much to say beyond just what happened in the plot, I felt.
I felt the same way. I mean, especially now that we're in like a period where there's such an oversaturation of superhero films, it just kind of blended in with everything else. Um, if you really asked me, like in like I used to be like really into the Marvel films, but if today looking back, there's only like a handful that I would really want to rewatch, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, Into the Spider-Verse I really loved, Black Panther, Infinity War I really enjoyed, and Thor Ragnarok I really loved that one too. But other than that, I don't really have much desire to like rewatch the other ones. Maybe the Iron Man films, but I don't know. This is a question that I just like to ask people for my internship show. What's the most embarrassing thing to happen to you?
Most embarrassing thing? Well, that depends if it's like real life or like YouTube.
I guess yeah. Let's just. I would say real life. That probably be maybe a little more interesting.
Well, I guess one I always remember is there's just one time where I was just sitting in study hall at the end of the day at school, and then out of nowhere, I just vomited all over my desk. Like it literally just came from
Oh
nowhere.
my god!
And everyone, it was just disgusting, and everyone had to stop and stare. And then it was at the end of the day, so it's not like I even gotta go home and miss school with an excused absence. There's like an hour left, so I didn't even get that. And I don't know. It's weird. I think that's the last time I've ever just vomited in public either.
That's rough. I've had like kind of a similar experience, except it had to do with snot. That's really all the questions I had. Now, I asked some people to give me some suggestions on Twitter, so we're going to go to that. Also, I just want to point out, we did a mock interview, like, I think 3 or 4 years ago. It was a parody of the exclusive Gabe Newell interview.
Yeah.
So, now we're doing, I guess I'll call this one exclusive Emp Lemon interview part 2. This time for real. Electric Boogaloo.
All right. That sounds good.
Yeah. I stayed up all night thinking of that one. Anyway, so let's see. So I asked them to try to keep it clean, and I doubt any of them were going to listen to me, but I'm going to ask you them anyway, and I'll just cut out the ones I can't keep. So, Patman asks, will you ever escape the downward spiral?
Well, at this point, it seems that the downward spiral is just a way of life. I don't know if I can ever escape it. It's forever a part of me and my soul and kind of the spirit of my entire channel and what I do on YouTube. So, It's like, can you ever escape your soul? I don't think so. So that's why I think the downward spiral will be a part of me forever.
So it's never ogre. You can confirm that.
Yes, that's correct. The downward spiral will never be ogre.
Nation of Oranges asks, are lemons your favorite fruit?
Contrary to my channel name, lemons are not my favorite fruit. It's probably like maybe a top 5 candy flavor. But in terms of just the fruit, I don't really like lemons that much. My favorite fruits would probably be a watermelon, kiwi, and mango.
Quick question about candy. Do you like still eat candy? Is there like much candy you can still eat? I mean, I'm just asking that because I know you're a vegan.
Right. Yeah, I can't eat most chocolates because they have milk in it. Um, and surprisingly, a lot of gummies, which sucks because it's like my favorite candy, but it has gelatin in it, which for those you don't know is like ground up animal bones and parts. So I got to get my gummies boneless, and there's not a lot of companies that sell it. Um, but other than that, I can just eat a lot of the ones that are just sugar. And I still do eat candy sometimes. Sour Patch is probably my favorite now because it's like the closest sour vegan gummy, I guess, where I can still eat it. Um, so yeah, I eat candy sometimes, not all the time, but usually whenever it's like at a friend's house or I get it for as a gift or something, I'll just have it.
That's nice. Yeah. Speaking of which, I myself, I've been trying to, cut back on meat since October. I've actually been a pescatarian, so the only like real meat that I eat is fish. And even with that, I've tried to, be a little bit more conscious about certain things. Like, um, my mom kind of turned me on to this, like, vegan skin products or soaps or whatever. So I try to promote, veganism in a lot of ways. I don't really try to eat, you know, a lot of chocolate or, I don't drink like straight milk. I still occasionally eat stuff with milk in it, like pizza or whatever. But, I'm trying, doing my best.
It took me about a year of being vegetarian before I made like the full transition to being vegan. It's just a matter of getting used to the lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still not sure if I really want to make the jump to vegetarian, but I'm thinking about it. But for me, I'm just really into sushi, so I didn't really want to give that up, but I was willing to give up beef and chicken cuz I don't know, just kind of grew tired of it. Not only that, but I feel healthier too after giving it up. Like I don't get like indigestion or as much acne as I used to. So there's that.
Well, that's good.
Do you have a least favorite video editor?
Video editor, like editing software?
I guess that's what they're asking. No, it says who was your least favorite video editor? I guess let me spin that. Least favorite YouTube pooper.
That's tough to say because eventually I grew to like not really dislike any YouTube poop person because I had it happen to me and I realized that this is just like pointless. But I guess if I could say back in the day when I was a bit more, I guess a bit more toxic, I kind of really disliked 95 Shade when that was a thing. I don't even know what happened to this person, but they kind of made like they kind of like took their entire channel inspiration from Sky Had a Ouija and basically made an entire channel of YouTube poops like that. And back in the day, there was like a big division in the community whether of like what YouTube poop was supposed to be, whether it was just doing random dubs of characters saying dinner and spaghetti, or just like editing the video in a completely transformative way. And kind of back then, 95 Shade represented sort of one of the last. He was one of the last holdouts of the old Spadinner era. Now people do it kind of ironically, so it's hard to tell anymore. But back then, back when it was kind of like an anti-meta thing to dislike that style. That was definitely one of the more infamous poopers in my head. Another thing I want to point out is that it was just like kind of a funny observation from back then, where back then I used it as like an indictment over the creativity of this person. Where obviously when you upload SpongeBob videos, it's only a matter of time before your channel gets like copyright strike by Viacom. So he got taken down a few times and had to do alt accounts. So the new incarnation of 95 Shade, it wasn't something like 96 Shade. He just made it 95 Shade 2. Like he just stuck 2 at the end of his channel instead of just doing kind of like more. I guess the more logical thing would be 96 Shade, but I guess that was that he wasn't thinking about that.
I remember a lot of poopers had to do stuff like that, but they were a lot more creative than that. Like Cortez, like when he got taken down, he rebranded as Santa with Teeth, and then Timote LSD. Before he was that, he was Timote AIDS, and then Timote LOL.
Yeah, but 95 Shade literally just like fuck it, 95 Shade 2.
My channel's pretty much always been called Goop Videos, but I opened my channel in 2012 and then just like did nothing with it for 3 years. I was planning on trying to like do something with it, and then I just like forgot about it. It wasn't until I tried making YouTube poops that I actually started using my channel. Other than that, I was just kind of using it to, comment on videos or whatever. Let's see, another question. Isaiah the Vargas asks, he wants to know what you think of the current state of like YouTube poop collabs and like how you think they should be done. Do you even still watch YouTube poop collabs?
Well, sometimes if a big one comes out and looks interesting, I'll check it out. But this has always been my thing, where I don't know if I've really talked about this publicly, but I definitely thought this very heavily back when I was more in the scene, where a lot of people, when they do collabs, they just literally upload one video, or they compile one video after the other. And of course, I've hosted several collabs on my channel, and I've done them in the way which I think is a better experience for the total viewership, where it's better, in my opinion, to just splice the collabs. And yes, as the collab host, you have to do some work on this, and you have to take some creative discretion. But in my opinion, the final product comes out so much better than just putting each entry one after the other, which is just basically the same as watching a playlist. Like, there would be no difference between watching your video, your collab that way, and just putting all the entries into a playlist and watching the playlist. I feel as a collab, you have to make something bigger than the sum of its parts. And in my opinion, the greatest collab of all time, the greatest YouTube poop collab of all time, was the King of the Hill collab 3 by Orpheus for the Win. So if you want an example of what I'm talking about, just search that up, King of the Hill collab 3, and that'll give you an idea and a great example of how editing the entries together to form a more cohesive product is just a better method for the viewer, in my opinion, than just lumping in all the entries one after the other.
Yeah, I definitely, when I did my Family Guy collab, I definitely tried to take that approach, but, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, like, there's so many YouTube poop collabs where it's just one after the other. It doesn't necessarily feel like a collaboration more than it just feels like a compilation. Like the YTP Sexer collab mostly just kind of felt like a massive, like, 2 to 3 hour compilation of just YouTube poop Sexer videos,
Right, and it works a bit better when the videos are kind of shorter, like kind of those Sexer style videos are. But I've seen some collabs like back in the day where people try to do them, and each entry is like 4 or 5 minutes long, and it really sucks when like one of the entries is not as interesting as the other. You just get like kind of a dead zone in the video, but you can make that less apparent when you try to intersperse the parts in a more cohesive way. Like for example, in my Shrek collab, um, I just took the parts from each video and kind of organized them in chronological order in terms of how the movie plays out. So like each individual entry would take parts from many different parts of the movie. So then it was up to me to like kind of cut the parts and put them in chronological order as if the events in the movie were actually happening. And I feel that makes a much better experience because it's like you're watching the movie itself rather than just like, oh, you see one entry and it goes through the different parts, and then you reset, watch another entry, it goes through the different parts. It just creates a better cohesion with the yeah.
Right. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking about the Shrek collab today, and I remember there's just one particular part that stuck out to me. It was like that ear rape part, where Shrek is like scaring the villagers, and I forget who did this entry, but after Shrek screamed, there was he just like put Shrek's face on all of the villagers, and then like made like basically a G major out of it. I don't know if you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. But
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, that one just like always stuck out to me for some reason. But Orpheus, he was the guy who did the Skooks videos, right?
Yes.
It's funny. I was showing that to my friends the other day because we were watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, and then I decided to show them the Skooks poop because the first part they like Orpheus like parodied the Evangelion opening.
Oh yeah.
So I think, speaking of Evangelion, since it's an anime, I think that'll be a segue into our next question, which comes from the DM Productions. He said, in Emp's old videos, you seem to have a strong distaste for anime. I want to know what your true opinion on anime actually is. Do you really hate it? Does it really bump memes down a few pegs when it's from an anime? Do you just hate anime? I guess that's the question.
So I guess I don't specifically hate anime per se, but I have a hard time getting along with a lot of people who watch anime, especially I guess just like Westerners who are obsessed with anime. Isn't like not all of them are bad, obviously, but it's just like I've encountered so many obnoxious people online, and so many times I see what they have in common. They have an anime profile picture, or they're obsessively posting about anime on their timeline all the time. I don't know what it is about anime with like attracting obnoxious people, but that just tends to happen a lot in my opinion, and it really stigmatizes the entire experience for me. Where I'd be more inclined to watch anime, but part of me feels like I don't want to get sucked into the wormhole of this type of community where a lot of these people are very like outspoken about anime online. It is really tough to listen to them and get along with them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what turned me off of it for years, but recently I've been getting more into it, mostly just because I grew an appreciation for just the art style, being that I'm getting into animation more. I watched a bunch of the Studio Ghibli films and, like I mentioned, Evangelion and just a couple of series here and there, but I'm not like a huge anime freak, and even then I don't really get into a lot of discussions about it. Yeah, I don't even really go around telling people like, hey, I watched this anime. It's like it's not a big deal. It's a show, like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I feel like people get extraordinarily obsessive over anime. It's not a supplement for having a personality. Like it's just it's a hobby. And I mean, it's good to be passionate about that, but I don't know. Like, so a lot of people, I see them online. They treat it like a life or death thing, and they get like so angry. I don't know. I guess everyone has their own passions that aren't shared by most other people, and I'm certainly no stranger. But it always seems that of all of these people, when dealing with people online, you can always spot the anime people out as just a bit more extreme than a lot of the others.
I understand that not everyone in the community is like that, but it's just kind of sad because it seems like an entire community keeps getting this, this image painted because these toxic people just stand out so much, I guess.
Right, yeah, and that sucks for the people in the community that are more moderate. And I do have a lot of friends who watch anime themselves, but I guess you could say it for every community where it often, the entire image does get tainted by a very vocal minority of people who kind of ruin it for everyone else.
But anyway, I think we dwelled enough on that. So, here's an interesting one. So you've gone into like your inspirations for YouTube poops, but I want to know what inspired you to start doing what you're doing now.
Well, growing up on the platform, I always watch a lot of YouTube, and videos that always seem to stick with me. Early on, it was the Vsauce videos, where like each video was very interesting, and there's a lot of videos growing up that I watched as a kid. I found them really entertaining, and then now I go back and watch them, and it's like, why did I even like that? But Vsauce videos for me have always been very consistently good, and that was something I wanted to emulate. Additionally, in 2016, I started watching a guy called John Boys, who makes very visually interesting videos about sports, and it was always very impactful to me how like out of the box and creative his visuals were in sort of portraying these more advanced concepts. So I'd say that influences a lot of my visual style, and Vsauce videos influence a lot of my writing style. So it's just that type of content I probably found the most impactful and influential, and it currently, I guess I aspire today to produce stuff in that vein.
All right. Well, that's it's very interesting. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. But do you think the people who inspired you from the YouTube poop days, like you still kind of like have them in the back of your mind, like every now and again?
Well, YouTube poop still influences my editing style, even on my videos that have nothing to do with YouTube poop. A lot of people comment, a lot of new viewers who didn't watch me during the YouTube poop days, they tend to comment on how interesting my editing style is, because there aren't a lot of people who make videos covering the topics I do that edit the videos the way I do. Like I said, based on my inspirations, I like to be very outside the box. I do stuff where if you go in school, they teach you that you shouldn't do it, but I do it anyway because just my intuition leads me to believe that this is the best way to convey this message. And a lot of that I can attribute to YouTube poop, where just sort of the abstract nature of just having a piece of video or cartoon and doing whatever you want to it. It really helped me hone my skills of just thinking creatively with how to edit through something in a visually interesting way, and how to keep your pacing good enough to constantly have the audience engaged. And I learned a lot of those skills with my years of experience making YouTube poops.
I definitely see that a lot in Shay Frillis's comments too. Like a lot of his viewers who watch, his animation reviews. He has a very like YTP influenced editing style because he was a YouTube pooper. So I think it's great that people from the community have basically taken what they learned from making YouTube poops and continue to use that in their newer videos. I mean, Biodegradable does that like in his freelance videos, and it's still cool, and I think Dmitry Petrov did that for a couple of people. He's actually helping me with some effects in my upcoming projects. So, it's
Oh,
cool.
that's good. Yeah, it's good to see kind of the YouTube poop alumni go on and succeed in different things. I know Shea Frillis he had a huge his channel grew so much last year making his film reviews, and it is always interesting because like we all I guess we all grew up to do different things, but a lot of our videos are kind of bonded by this same the same root. So we're always just part of the same club, I guess, where we'll have that mutual respect for each other because we started off on the platform doing the same thing from humble beginnings.
So you have a series called Never Ever. What's your favorite episode from that series so far?
Probably my favorite one so far is the Cold War episode, just because in that I think the topic was the most important out of anything, and I feel like I executed it well for as ambitious of a project I was attempting to create with that.
I think my personal favorite, though, would be your Dale Earnhardt video because that one hit really close to home for me because me and my dad used to be huge NASCAR fans. And my dad was especially a huge Dale Earnhardt fan. And it was actually, after you had uploaded that video, I was like, Dad, you got to see this. Like, Aaron made a Dale Earnhardt video, and he saw it and he was like, this is like, he pretty much kind of mistook it for like a professionally made documentary. So props to you, man. Did an awesome job with that video.
Yeah, a lot of people comment and tell me that that's probably their favorite one. But I guess just as the creator, I have like different things that I prioritize a little more. But that's definitely a very strong one as well.
Definitely one of the sadder ones too, only because of what happened to Dale Earnhardt, but still a very strong video. Someone wants to know, can you fix your Discord server?
Yeah, I'm pretty neglectful to my Discord server. Uh, so I don't really know what to tell you. I just let the mods handle the stuff. So if you have a problem with that, you're basically out of luck. I'm sorry. Uh, I just hope that the mods do the best they can. And I know that people message me all the time on Twitter saying like, oh, there's some drama or something where they're treated unfairly. I just don't really have the time to deal with just personal issues and crime and punishment on my Discord server. So I apologize for that. But sometimes you just have to live and let live, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons why I stopped going on Discord. Like, I was part of some servers where, shit like that was happening. Here's a good one. How deep does the spiral go?
Well, the spiral goes as deep as you allow yourself to sink into it, I guess. But there will never be a point where you're at the bottom.
Well, then that's cock bottom, I guess.
Right.
Oh, here's a really good one. So you've done Green Simpsons. Would you ever do Blue Family Guy?
Yeah, I've seen some of these. I've seen some of these remixes inspired by Green Simpsons. I've seen Blue Family Guy, Red Cleveland Show, Yellow American Dad, and I don't know, Blue Family Guy. Maybe I wouldn't make Family Guy blue. I have to see though.
I remember when I did my Family Guy collab, I got a couple entries that it was a yellow Family Guy.
Yellow Family Guy.
Simpsons guy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. Would you ever do a meme documentary?
I don't know about that for now. I have a big slate of topics and issues that I want to cover. And obviously, people who are familiar with my stuff know that I tend to take a while because I really try to take my time with research and editing so that the product will end up being as good as it can be. So right now, I have no plans to make that, but I wouldn't rule it out for the future.
Okay, here's another one. So, how long do you foresee yourself like doing YouTube? Like just as long as you can?
Yeah, I'll probably do YouTube as long as I feel like I have stuff left to prove. And knowing myself, that might always be the case. So unless the entire site just crashes and burns, I'm probably just going to keep making content for it. I think eventually I'd like to try other stuff, but obviously a big thing for me is creative control. So if I wanted to try to do like my own like independent documentary or something like that and pitch it to like networks, that might be a little tricky for me, but um, I don't know. I really feel comfortable on YouTube right now, and as long as I have these additional topics that I want to talk about, I'll probably keep making videos for YouTube.
I guess I'll leave you with two more here. Can you give us any insight into what the next episode of Never Ever will be about?
I don't really like to talk about or I guess spoil the future storylines. I think it's a lot more interesting to just keep people guessing, and it makes it a lot more of a surprise, and it makes it a lot more exciting when it actually comes out. So, for now, I'm just gonna keep all those details secret.
All right. I mean, that's completely fair. And I guess one more. I'll leave you with like one more YTP related question. What do you consider to be your best YouTube poop, like to this day?
Um, I think my best work is probably. Oh, that's actually tough to say. I guess it's got to be Admiral Akbar's Traptastic Sextravaganza Episode 3 because that was something I literally spent 6 months on. And I guess spiritually, that was kind of the point where I was sort of done with YouTube poop. And I wasn't really going to try as hard anymore after that. So I'm pretty sure that was the last one where I really put in a ton of effort. And I don't know. I don't think it's on YouTube anymore because it got taken down for copyright. But you could probably find a re-upload of it somewhere. It will probably, yeah, it's probably my best total project because it synthesizes sort of all of my old YouTube poops up until that point, and it really is more of a magnum opus type project.
You could probably find it re-uploaded on YouTube, or it's probably on like the Internet Archives or whatever. But I think I have it saved on my computer. So and there's probably a bunch of other people that do too. But that was 5 years ago now that poop came out, right?
Yeah, it's weird to think
And
where
that's when you hit your 100K sub count.
right.
But yeah, that must have been a really special feeling to hit that achievement.
Yeah, well, there's not many people who can say that they've reached 100,000 only making YouTube poops, but I accomplished it. Um, and of course now everything's different.
Yeah, I think the only other person that ever did that was there's a couple of others now. I mean, like Flying Kitty, I think pretty much did that. I mean, he kind of went into just doing like regular YouTube meme videos, but I think he hit 100K by just doing YouTube poops, if I'm not mistaken.
But back in the day, it was kind of just me, CS188, and Panic TV, the Russian YouTube pooper. I think we were the only ones back then to have passed 100,000 making like exclusively YouTube poops. Obviously, you had guys like Das Boshit, Kitty0706 who he made YouTube poops, but their main stuff was Gmod.
Right. Rest in peace to Kitty.
Right, and we were the only ones back then who really got that far because YouTube poop as a genre, it used to be a lot bigger back in the early days of YouTube, comparatively bigger, where more people on YouTube would know about YouTube poop. But I guess after sort of the MLG era, it sort of faded more into like a background type thing where only like people in the know really still know YouTube poops.
God, thinking about the MLG era, like that's I think one of the reasons why I can't rewatch my Despicable Meme poop, because it was like littered with a bunch of just MLG like cringe.
I thought all of the MLG stuff was actually really funny, and a lot of those videos, the effects were really good, and that made them really fun to watch. But after a while, all the jokes it suffered from the same thing that like Spadinner did, where all the jokes were coming from the same thing, and after a while, you just run out of ideas, new and interesting ideas you could do with just these same effects and memes. All right, so my laptop is about to run out of battery here, so I can take one more question.
Okay, I got one question for you, and I think I meant to ask you this. What's your favorite kind of music?
Probably my favorite music all time is progressive rock, mostly like 70s era progressive rock bands like Pink Floyd, Yes, Gentle Giant, Soft Machine. That's probably my favorite genre to listen to overall. But recently, I've sort of just become interested in listening to like all genres. Been listening to a lot more hip hop recently. Igor was my favorite album of 2019. Um, yeah, so I listen to just a bunch of stuff now.
I think you used MF Doom in one of your videos. You listen to him?
Right, I've listened to some of Doom's work, but I still have to go through the discography, I guess. I don't listen to music that often, really only on like kind of long car rides, so like I don't really listen to it in the background of my videos. I just listen to YouTube, like just regular YouTube videos. So I don't really get to listen to a lot, but when I'm really like an artist, I go out of my way to explore really all they have to offer. And recently, I've been listening to kind of like more 60s era rock and roll bands like The Doors and the Beach Boys. I've been really getting into stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like mostly into metal, but recently, like I've been getting into more like working class punk music, folk music like Bob Dylan, Elliott Smith, Tom Waits, a lot of like sludgy, like kind of doomy rock music. Like I got really into, like I always loved Black Sabbath, but I have like a much bigger appreciation for like the Dio era Black Sabbath now, and like Candlemass. Like I don't know if you're familiar with any of that stuff, but you know, and noise rock and stuff like that. So, you know, we all kind of have like our favorite thing, and then it just branches off into, you know, other interests, I guess.
Right.
But
That's a good thing
anyway,
about music.
Yeah, it's a great thing about music. But anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, definitely exceeded the time I needed for the overall episode, but this will at least make for some good content for my regular channel. Yeah, I'll probably actually end it right here. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, I never know how to end these things, so I'm just going to hit the stop button. And that's that.